On the Brody File this week, will the federal government shut down? We go to Capitol Hill for answers.
The president and Harry Reid would like to shut the government down and in place and keep Obamacare on the books. I think we're pushing back.
So should the government shut down over Obamacare? Caitlin Burke on the case.
I'm definitely opposed to Obamacare. I'll say that like 100 times.
And the power of Jesus. Just ask Bishop Elias, who went from child soldier in Sudan's army to spreading the gospel.
We have seen it really that through the gospel of Jesus Christ, tribes and nations have been united.
The Brody File on the air across America. Buckle up your seatbelt. Let's go. Welcome everybody to the Brody File. You know, there are burning questions in life, like, will the Cubs ever win a World Series again? Is Elvis alive? But this week the burning question is, will the federal government shut down? Now, for those of you who want a basic explanation of this, let me try and boil this down to one sentence. Tea Party conservatives think Obamacare is bad for the country and they're willing to shut down the government over it. There you have it. However, it's not so simple. So this week we talked to one of those Tea Party conservatives. Congressman Tim Huelskamp from Kansas is leading the fight in the House over defunding Obamacare, even if it means shutting down the government. He's a thorn in the side of House Speaker John Boehner, and he joined us earlier this week to discuss the matter. And Congressman Huelskamp joins us now from Capitol Hill. Congressman, thanks again for being here.
My pleasure.
Look, let me ask you, you guys, you guys, these Tea Party conservatives, these constitutional conservatives are being called all sorts of names. Everything from anarchist by Senator Harry Reid, and boy, the list goes on. What do you make of the fact that you guys have been, in essence, demonized over this fight?
Well, the demonization is coming from the left and even some of our own Republicans as well. I mean, probably our greatest sin is doing what we said we'd do, and that's push back Obamacare, keep the government open, and actually stand on some principles. And so it's a good day here in Washington. I think a good day across America. We got a battle on our hands. Decide where we're going to head in this country.
And what about that battle ahead? What is your sense? What is your lay of the land? I know things are changing by the minute up there, but what is your bottom line? What is your line in the sand, if you will?
Well, there are a couple different battles. One is out amongst the rest of America. On that front, I think we've won. I think Americans don't want Obamacare. They'd rather keep the government open and not fund Obamacare. But here in Washington, I mean, it's completely detracted from reality, and up here it's a real battle. I think there's folks in the Senate that do anything to keep Obamacare on the books, and then there's a strong contingent in the House that says, you know what, I think we can live without it, and let's keep the doors of the government open and continue the battle on Obamacare.
What is your sense with the Speaker Boehner and leadership? You know, they first wanted to keep the government open and not go to the mat on Obamacare, at least over the government shutdown or the continuing resolution. What is your sense as to what they might do and how you might react?
Well, about 10 days ago, they did not want to have this battle at all, and we'd had 42 different votes over the last 2.5 years, and that didn't get to the real heart of the matter, and this is where we're at. The president and Harry Reid would like to shut the government down and in place and keep Obamacare on the books. I think we're pushing back. Americans don't want Obamacare, and they don't think members of Congress and our staff and the cabinet and the president need to be exempted from Obamacare unless you exempt all of America, and that's the battle that we're talking about here today.
But Congressman, isn't part of the problem, they might not want Obamacare, but polls have also shown that they don't want the government potentially shut down over Obamacare either. Is that where the rubber meets the road a little bit here?
It really is, and that's the battle. That's what runs through the minds of a lot of politicians. They're all worried about the next election, but for many of us, it's not about the next election. It's about the next generation. Are we going to allow the biggest entitlement, the biggest impact on our budget deficits? If Obamacare stays on the books, it's going to add $900 billion to our deficit in the next decade. We can't allow that to happen, and so we have to stand on principle and articulate to the American people that, hey, we can keep all the government open. Nobody wants to shut the government down unless, Mr. President, you're going to keep Obamacare on the books and keep the individual mandate on the books. He's already exempted all the large businesses. The real question is here, will we exempt all of Americans and move on with the real business here in Washington?
What do you say to the pundits and, quite frankly, some establishment Republicans who say this is going to be bad for the GOP election-wise in 2014 if this government shuts down? What's the response to that?
Well, the response is, for my first 2 years up here, and I first took office in 2011, they told us for 2 years we can't fight on anything because we might lose the next election. Hey, we lost the election. Many of these same pundits are the ones who told us the strategy to get the White House was to move back and not fight on our principles. That didn't work. You know, at the end of the day, I think the American people understand the difference between not fighting at all and fighting and not winning everything.
Congressman, always a pleasure. Maybe next time we'll have you wear some sort of "I'm not an anarchist" t-shirt or something like that.
Well, I'm just an ordinary American, just flew in from my home state of Kansas, and they're overwhelmingly clear on what they want is not Obamacare, and they want to keep the government open, and we can do that, fund everything else but Obamacare, and that's a good day here in America.
Now, for more on this, we're time to bring in Caitlin Burke, who has been basically interrupting people's lunches by stopping people on the street to talk to them about this. Caitlin?
David, polls show that most Americans don't like or understand the president's health care law. But just how badly do they want it to go away? We hit the streets to find out if defunding Obamacare was worth a potential government shutdown. Do you think that we should defund Obamacare even if it means shutting down the government?
I don't think that that's a good idea. I think there's other ways we could work around that.
Absolutely not. I mean, right now, the best thing to think about is everybody overall. You know, I mean, we all got issues. The government has their issues.
Do you think that it's worth defunding Obamacare even if it means shutting down the government?
I don't agree with shutting down the government, but I'm definitely opposed to Obamacare. So I mean, I don't understand why it seems like now like every 6 months we're threatening to shut down the government because they're all unwilling to do their job. That's how I feel about it. And I'm definitely opposed to Obamacare. I'll say that like 100 times.
I haven't been impressed with the things that I've seen and learned about Obamacare just from the changes I've seen in the cafeteria plan that's offered through the federal government and through the changes that I've seen to things like premium changes and copay changes as a result of Obamacare.
For now, the battle continues in the Senate, but the clock is ticking.
Thanks, Caitlin. All right, when we come back, a Brody File conversation with Senator Bob Corker. What is America's place in the world when it comes to helping other nations? We're back in a moment.
Grace, music is unpredictable.
I know I have what it takes.
The Dove Foundation raves. Grace Unplugged is remarkable and inspiring.
This is not about the music, it's about everything else that goes with it.
Dad, were you watching me?
A moving and meaningful film.
This book, his words shook me. It was like my whole world.
That parents and teens should see together, says Focus on the Family.
What are you gonna do? You're gonna drag her back home?
Yeah, I might. I think maybe you're fighting God. Just stop running.
Grace Unplugged, rated PG, in theaters October 4th. If you had a choice between going bald and a full head of hair, which would you choose? Advances in medical science have resulted in the world's first and only permanent solution to hair loss.
Yes!
You wash it, you cut it. It's your own real, naturally growing hair. When it comes to hair restoration, no one in the world has more experience than Bosley. The results look completely natural and are affordable on nearly any budget. But the entire process can't be explained in 60 brief seconds. So to find out more about this clinically proven and permanent solution to hair loss, call now to receive your free no-obligation information kit. It'll answer all of your questions about hair loss and hair restoration. Plus, we'll also send you this $250 gift certificate just for calling. Every day you wait, you're losing more hair. So don't put it off any longer. You owe it to yourself to find out the facts. Choose hair. Choose Bosley.
Call 800-868-9957. That's 800-868-9957.
Grace, music is unpredictable.
I know I have what it takes.
The Dove Foundation raves. Grace Unplugged is remarkable and inspiring.
This is not about the music, it's about everything else that goes with it.
Dad, were you watching me?
A moving and meaningful film.
This book, his words shook me. It was like my whole world.
That parents and teens should see together, says Focus on the Family.
What are you gonna do? You're gonna drag her back home?
Yeah, I might. I think maybe you're fighting God. Just stop running.
Grace Unplugged, rated PG, in theaters October 4th.
And we're back here on the Brody File. You know, right now in America, we're having a big debate in this country over what the role of America should be around the world. The crisis in Syria has really brought all of this into focus. Should we get involved? Should we stay out? I mean, when should America play world policeman, etc., etc., etc.? Let's face it, the U.S. government gives hundreds of millions of dollars to countries all over the world that definitely do not have America's best interest at heart. Take Egypt, for example. Politicians like Rand Paul have been vocal about this, and they're receiving standing ovations.
In country after country, mobs burn the American flag and chant death to America. How does Congress respond? They send more of your money to these haters of Christianity. I say not one penny more to any country that's burning our flag.
Now, while that is a good applause line, the reality is that the U.S. government actually commits very little money of the country's overall budget to international relations. It's about 1%. The U.S. Global Leadership Coalition is leading the way in a discussion about smart power. In other words, they believe the best way for America to be successful economically is to combine military strength with diplomacy and development in many of these foreign countries. Recently, I went down to Nashville to moderate one of their events, and I was joined by Tennessee Senator Bob Corker. Here's some of that discussion.
I do not want us to cut off an aid relationship to Egypt. I think that is absolutely cutting our nose off to spite our face. We need to have a relationship with the military. We need to have a relationship through our other soft power with just the citizens of Egypt. And again, one of my, quote, friends in the Senate last week was saying, why do we give aid to these people? They don't even like us. Well, you know, I wish they liked us. But candidly, we do it because it's in our national interest. So I think we will move ahead in that way. I sense that we will suspend some, we'll recalibrate, we will continue to be engaged, and we need to be the voice of calm.
How exactly, if you can, as we say in the media business or in the TV business, dumb it down for us a little bit, but how does American global enterprise and the American markets, in essence, are helped through smart power here in Tennessee? In other words, take me through the chain a little bit in somewhat of a Reader's Digest form as to why people should even care about this here in Tennessee.
Well, I'll give you, again, just the formula that I want to repeat over and over again, because it's been, I think, our best way to talk to citizens about aid, especially when so much rhetoric is around this issue. Again, I go back to the fact that, you know, look, we have the, I guess people measure these things in different ways. I would say we have the highest standard of living in the world, okay? And we have the best opportunity for young people who are in this room because of the way this nation is. And again, if you just go back to the basic issue of having 4.5% of the population and 22% of the world's GDP, it matters that we are involved globally. I mean, the reason that we have such a different standard of living and economic output than so many other countries is because of our involvement in globalization.
That is some good work being done by the U.S. Global Leadership Coalition, and I'm glad to be a part of the effort. We're going to have more reports on their efforts throughout the year. All right, we're back in a moment with the story of the Vandals and the Ten Commandments. Put it this way, Moses would not be happy.
When I grow up, I want to be a teacher.
I want to be a doctor.
Someday, I'm going to be president. I want to help people.
My dream is to have a family.
Every child has a dream, but for thousands of orphans in Europe, those dreams are crushed. No hope and no future. But is that what you'd want for any child? Don't just stand and watch. Release the dreams of a child today. Through Orphans Promise, you can provide education, skill training, and career placement for vulnerable children all across Europe. Call Orphans Promise today. You can bring children's dreams to life.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. Let me be clear here at the Brody File. We revere the Ten Commandments. They are safe and secure right here. However, apparently, the Ten Commandments are not safe and secure just a few miles from here behind the U.S. Supreme Court. The 850-pound stone monument was vandalized, and the words of the commandments are now face down. So this monument sits out front of the headquarters owned by Faith in Action. They're a Christian-based ministry, and they have office space behind the Supreme Court. Well, the group put the monument up in 2006, and what they did is they angled it so that the Supreme Court justices could see it as they entered the court.
Had this been done at a synagogue or a mosque or some other house of worship, there's no question this would be deemed a hate crime.
That is a good point by the Reverend. By the way, the group says they're not angry about the damage to the monument. Actually, they say what the vandals did convey an important message, which is that we all violate the Ten Commandments, hence the need for a Savior. Nice spin. And, by the way, as my 21-year-old son would say, true dat. Yo! We're so hip here on the show. Actually, we really need more like a hip replacement. Anyhow, on to yet another story of a sacred statue vandalized. In Southern California, vandals set fire, get ready conservatives, to a life-size statue of Ronald Reagan. It happened in Temecula, California, in a park named for Reagan back in 2004. The statue is blackened, but still stands. Basically, some tiles were destroyed along with a decorative wall behind it. Police still looking for a suspect. And look, Mr. Vandal or Mrs. Vandal, let the Brody File be very clear. You can torch a statue of Reagan, but you're going to never be able to extinguish his legacy. So here is an oldie but a goodie between Reagan and the press.
In talking about the continuing recession tonight, you have blamed mistakes of the past, and you have blamed the Congress. Does any of the blame belong to you?
Yes, because for many years I was a Democrat.
That is classic Reagan. All right, next, from child soldier to on fire for Christ, our conversation with Bishop Elias. It's an exclusive you don't want to miss.
Attention sleep apnea patients. Are you tired of the expense and hassle of getting your CPAP and BiPAP supplies? Are you fed up with dealing with ill-fitting, leaking, or worn-out masks and straps? Are you worried about the effects that unsanitary tubes, cushions, and filters have on your health? If you said yes to any of these questions, Allied Medical Supply Network has the solution to your problems. You could qualify to have your supplies regularly delivered right to your door at little or no cost to you. That's right, no more inconvenience, no worn-out masks and straps, no more unsanitary equipment, just restful sleep. Call Allied Medical Supply Network today to determine if you may qualify to receive your fresh, brand-name supplies at little or no cost. Don't delay. Call us now to see if you are eligible to save money on regular delivery of your CPAP and BiPAP supplies. Call 1-800-815-9947. That's 1-800-815-9947. Or go to cpapsupplyhelpline.com.
And we're back here on the Brody File. Now, this next segment is a compelling one if you love Jesus and you love a feel-good story, because this segment will be for you. Because this week, the Clinton Global Initiative named South Sudan Bishop Elias as one of the winners of their Global Citizen Awards. Now, Bishop Taban is the national bishop of the Evangelical Presbyterian Church, and he was honored for his vision and leadership in addressing global problems. I got to tell you, his story is remarkable. He was a child soldier during Sudan's civil wars, and despite a brutal and impoverished childhood, he actually came to know Jesus Christ as a Savior, and now he spreads the gospel throughout Africa. You know, he was actually sentenced to death for his faith, but he survived. He's going to tell us about that in a moment. He served as a colonel in the Sudan People's Liberation Army, and he founded the Army's Chaplains Corps. And now this Chaplain Corps was very important because it changed the fighting mindset from kind of a guerrilla-type movement to more of a humanitarian-type movement. The bishop has created a network of wells, orphanages, health clinics, and schools across the South Sudan. And his Water is Basic ministry, that's the name of it. It's drilled close to 500 wells since 2008. Here is our interview from earlier this week.
This award is an indication of our top people in the top leadership of the world coming to reinforce the voice of the grassroots. I'm basically someone who is really from the grassroots, and to be honored with this award for what we have done down in a third world country in Southern Sudan by CGI, Clinton Global Initiative. I mean to say it is like President Clinton and his family and the nation of America is saying, we are together with the least on the ground, and we want to lift them up so that we can make a difference in our world.
There's a powerful story that I'm wondering if you can share with our audience. You were actually apparently sentenced to death for your faith at one point. Is that correct? What happened exactly? And you were even saved, I believe, by a general who you actually helped bring to Christ. Tell me a little bit about exactly what that was like. That must have been quite an experience.
It came to a time whereby Christianity was like slowly dragging down. And of course, I and my wife alongside me, Anne Grace Asher Taban has been my great partner, that together we were preaching and winning souls, planting churches in the middle of the jungle, in the middle of the war, and distributing Bibles. But then, of course, one commander who is totally convinced of the Marxist ideologies sees me as an enemy from within. So the only thing is that I have to be eliminated by all means. So, of course, counter false accusations were made to cover up. And then I was locked in custody in a border town called the Kaya in Southern Sudan, close to Uganda border. I was locked in, and it was remaining 12 days for my execution. But then a commander by name Ajoka Yuen, by then from Bor, Jonglei State, he was our head in the National Economic Commission, and I was serving with him. He came in to my rescue, and I was released after 12 days from my day of execution. So that is another hand of God miraculously saving me for a purpose.
Speaking about the hand of God, I know, and I've read some of what your biography says here, and you mentioned about your goal is for every literate Christian in Africa, in an African household, to have their own personal Bible. Tell me about this crusade, about getting the Bible, God's Word, into the hands of Africans all across the continent.
We have seen really that through the gospel of Jesus Christ, tribes and nations are being united.
Let me ask you, Bishop, what is your message for someone listening to this interview right now that doesn't know Jesus Christ in a real and personal way like yourself? And what do you want to tell those folks that are listening to this?
Well, I want really to assure that for people who doesn't know Jesus Christ, there is no way that we can really achieve anything called peace in this world without Jesus Christ. I was last year, July, with the Oxfam at the New York UN headquarters, and I happened to be the person representing giving the declaration on the Arms Trade Treaty. So I carried the Global Faith-Based Group declaration, handed it to Ban Ki-moon. And my message always is that, I'm sorry to say this, and I hope I'm not offending anybody. I said, where UN has failed, Jesus will never fail. And for us who believe in Jesus, anyone who knows Jesus, there is a strength behind it. If people doesn't believe it, I believe it. I've lived over 58 years, over 40 years of my life I've lived in a war, and I've seen the hand of Christ in really saving and protecting his people even in the middle of bloodshed.
You know, your life is simply an amazing one, and a one that God took and shaped and formed like that. Have you ever thought to yourself, I'm sure you have, but have you ever thought about what would have happened if Jesus had never come into your life? If Jesus hadn't grabbed you, if you hadn't said yes to his promise of salvation?
Well, I mean to say, really, if I would have not known Jesus, I don't know what would have happened in Southern Sudan right now. When we talk of water wells, we talk of orphans, we are the lead church, local church in taking care of orphans and widows, war orphans and war widows. And we do this in partnership with the government of Southern Sudan. They recognize us very much because we are the lead in that area. I know that really if I had not accepted Jesus as my personal savior, I don't know what would happen, brother. That's also a question for myself. And because of this, I keep on thanking Jesus for accepting me as a sinner and delivering me from my sins.
Look, a great story, and we wish Bishop Taban nothing but the best. We are back in a moment with an Oy Vey moment of the week that honestly might have you choking on your bagel. Back in a moment.
The 700 Club and CBN touch lives in so many ways. And now you can read about what we're doing in our free monthly 700 Club magazine. You'll find features on health and wellness, news about 700 Club activities around the world, dynamic Bible teachings by Pat and Gordon Robertson, and much more. To receive your free copy now, just ring 0800-432-0700. Thanks. See you next time on the Club.
You've got everything you thought would make you happy. A promising career, plenty of friends, and a growing family. But life seems empty. Something's missing. Only God can bring real meaning to life. True happiness comes from knowing Him. Discover how God can change your life. Watch the 700 Club.
Hi, my name is Breda. I'm just your typical 9-year-old. I love singing, dancing, reading, discovering the simple truth. My grandpa says you're never too young or old to learn the value of a dog. He taught me the true value of this paper dog. You see this little gold coin? It says $1 on it. But guess what? That was a long time ago. Today, this gold dollar is worth over 100 paper dollars. This paper dollar is now only worth 1 penny compared to America's former money, the gold dollar. My grandpa says the only money worth saving today is real money, gold or silver coins. He's pretty smart. How our paper dollars lost their value, he says. It's all explained in a new book, The Great Debasement. It's easy and fun to read. If you call the number on the screen, I will send you a copy totally free. Next time, I will explain the simple truth about money.
And welcome back to the Brody File. All right, here's a no-brainer question. What do people eat on their birthday? Well, a birthday cake, right? Of course. Now, what do people do when it comes to Constitution Day? I mean, what do they give out? Well, they give out constitutions, right? Not exactly. It's our Oy Vey moment of the week. Now, we love the Constitution here at the Brody File. Apparently, so does Robert Van Tunen. Here's some home video taken of the college student trying to pass out the Constitution on Constitution Day. This is at Modesto Junior College in California. Now, guess what? They said he couldn't hand them out in front of the Student Center. Instead, they told him he had to go to this tiny little free speech zone on campus. It's marked here in orange. Now, watch Robert plead his case to security and school officials.
I am a student at this campus exercising my free speech rights and engaging in conversations with my fellow students. Why do I as a student have to get permission to have a free speech?
Okay. And
this is my free speech, is it not?
It's a time, place, and manner. That's what it's called. And that's
okay.
The free speech area. And the free speech area is over there in front of the Student Center. In that little cement area. That's a time, place, and manner free speech area for anybody that's going to be on campus.
Ah, yes, everybody. Forget about passing out the Constitution on Constitution Day unless you're in the tiny little free speech zone that's marked in orange. Oy Gewalt. That does it for this week. Until next time, everybody, God bless. Have a great week.